My parents always saw me as their personal cash machine. When I discovered they'd left everything to my brother, I decided I was done playing their game. My name is Ralph, and any doubts I had about my role in the family vanished the day I stumbled upon their will. It wasn't some grand formal announcement where they sat me down to break the news. No, I found out by pure chance. A stroke of dumb luck. It happened a few months ago at their place. The same house I'd been helping them keep afloat for the past 5 years. The mortgage payments, occasional grocery runs, even small fixes around the property. I handled it all. I was the one holding everything together while my brother Eric did absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. No job, no responsibilities, just lounging around, waiting for life to hand him everything on a silver platter, which my parents were all too happy to provide. That day, I was helping my dad with some paperwork because, as usual, neither of them could be bothered to deal with it themselves. He asked me to scan some documents, mostly legal and financial stuff, and I didn't think much of it until I spotted it. A folder labeled Estate Plan and Last Will and Testament tucked among the papers. I'm not one to pry, but curiosity got the better of me. After all, I'd been the one keeping their home intact. It wasn't unreasonable to wonder how their future plans looked, so I opened the folder. What I read made my stomach drop. Everything was going to Eric. The house, their savings, their assets. My name appeared nowhere, except in some vague line about how much they loved both their sons. Sure, loved equally. That's why they ensured their golden boy got it all, while the son who kept them afloat was completely overlooked. I felt like a fool. Here I was, bending over backward to make sure their bills were paid, their fridge was stocked, and their home was maintained, while they planned a future where I got nothing. And Eric wasn't just lazy, he was entitled. He never lifted a finger to help, never contributed a cent, yet somehow convinced them he deserved it all. Maybe because he was the younger son. Maybe because they always coddled him. Maybe because he knew how to play them. Whatever the reason, they'd made their choice. I sat there, staring at the document, my hands shaking with anger and betrayal. How long had they been planning this? Was I always just their financial safety net, expected to give endlessly with nothing in return? Did they ever value what I'd done for them? I don't know how long I sat there, but my dad eventually noticed I wasn't scanning anything. "Ralph, what's taking so long?" he called, walking back into the room. I didn't bother hiding the will. I held it up and locked eyes with him. "So this is how it is?" I said, my voice eerily steady. "Everything to Eric, after all I've done for you?" My dad's face paled for a moment, then he sighed, like I was a kid throwing a fit. "Ralph, it's not what you think," he said. "Is it?" I shot back. "Because it looks crystal clear to me. I've been paying your mortgage, buying your groceries, fixing your house while Eric does nothing, and you still decided he's the only one who matters?" Dad shifted uncomfortably but offered no real explanation, just a weak, "It's complicated." No apology, no attempt to justify it beyond those two hollow words. Just a lame excuse and a hopeful look, as if he expected me to let it go and resume being their cash cow. I should have left right then, but I needed to hear it from both of them. I called for my mom. When she walked in and saw the will in my hands, she didn't handle it well. She looked guilty, but what she said next made my blood boil. "Ralph, honey," she said softly, like she was doing me a favor. "You don't need the inheritance. You've got a good job. You're self-sufficient. Eric, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's okay." That was the moment something inside me broke. They weren't clueless. They knew exactly what they were doing and thought it was perfectly fair. They'd spent years enabling Eric's laziness, and now they were rewarding it by giving him everything, while I was an afterthought. I took a deep breath, clenched my jaw, and set the will down. "Got it," I said, my voice oddly calm. "Good to know where I stand." I turned and walked out, ignoring their protests as I shut the door behind me. They'd made their choice. Now it was my turn to make mine. I didn't go back to their house after that. I didn't call. I didn't check in. For the first time in years, I let them handle their own problems. If something needed fixing, they could figure it out. If they needed groceries, they could get to the store themselves. Most importantly, when the mortgage bill came, I wasn't paying it anymore. The silence lasted nearly 2 weeks. At first, they probably thought I was just sulking and would come crawling back, as I always had. Maybe they expected me to cool off and apologize for daring to challenge their decision. But as the days went by with no word from me, and more importantly, no money, they started to feel the shift. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Property taxes are due." That was it. No, "Hey, how are you?" No, "Sorry for what happened." No, "We appreciate all you've done." Just a cold, transactional demand. like I was still their personal bank. I stared at the message, almost amused by how predictable they were. They really thought they could just demand cash, as if nothing had changed. I replied, "I'm sure Eric's got it covered since the house is his and all." It took exactly 5 minutes for Mom to call. I let it ring. Then another text came through. "Ralph, please don't be like this. We need to talk." Oh, now they wanted to talk, now that their bills were piling up and reality was hitting them? I waited an hour before responding. "There's nothing to discuss. You made your choice. Live with it." I thought that was the end of it. I'd made my stance clear and I didn't feel guilty about it. But then Eric decided to chime in. His text came late that night, and the moment I saw his name, I knew it'd be something vile. Sure enough, it was pure entitlement. "Dude, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal. Just help them out like you always do." I almost laughed. "Not a big deal?" He genuinely thought I had no right to be upset. I typed back, "No. I think you've got this, since you're the favorite and all." His reply was quick. "Oh my God, are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up, man. It's just money." Just money? Now that it was his to inherit, it suddenly didn't matter? The hypocrisy was staggering. I responded, "Then you won't mind using some of that money to cover the mortgage, right?" Silence. A few minutes later, Mom texted again, this time in full guilt trip mode. "Ralph, we're your parents. Family takes care of each other. We did so much for you growing up and now you're just abandoning us." I had to take a deep breath to keep from throwing my phone. Abandoning them? I'd spent years making sure they never struggled, while they coddled Eric's laziness. Now that they had to face the consequences, I was the bad guy? I wasn't falling for it. I replied, "You made it clear I wasn't family when you left me out of the will. Now Eric can take care of you." I could imagine Mom gasping dramatically. She had a talent for playing the victim, even when she was wrong. A few minutes later, Dad texted again, and this one pushed me over the edge. "We're not asking for much. Just enough to cover the mortgage for a few months until we sort things out. Don't be selfish." Selfish? The word made my blood boil. I'd been bailing them out for years, sacrificing my own time, money, and energy to make their lives easier. And they repaid me by cutting me out. Now I was selfish for standing up for myself. I took a deep breath, typed, "No, I'm done," and turned off my phone. They'd made their choice, and they were going to live with it. The silence lasted one day. I knew they wouldn't give up easily, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. The following morning, I got a notification on my phone, a bank transfer request. I groaned as I unlocked my phone to check. It was from Mom. She'd actually sent me a request for $3,500 like I was an ATM. No note, no explanation, just a blatant demand for the exact amount to cover their overdue mortgage. They weren't even asking anymore. They assumed I'd cave. I declined it without a second thought. Less than 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom. I let it ring. Then another text. "Ralph, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it?" I paused, then replied, "Because it's not my responsibility." "Ask Eric." Another call. Ignored. Then another text. "We're going to lose the house if you don't help." Oh, now it was a crisis. After years of treating me like a walking wallet, they were finally facing consequences? I responded, "Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter." Seconds later, Dad joined in. "You're really going to let your parents become homeless?" I laughed out loud. The manipulation was so blatant it was almost funny. They weren't destitute. They just didn't want to dip into their savings because they were used to me covering everything. I ignored them for the rest of the day. That night, Eric texted, "Dude, just send the money already. You're making this a bigger deal than it is." I clenched my jaw. This entitled little brat thought he could lecture me? I replied, "You mean the money you're inheriting? Why don't you send it?" His response was quick. "You know I don't have that kind of cash right now." So now it was about affordability. He was fine with me draining my savings, but when it was his turn, he had nothing to offer? I shot back. "Guess you better figure it out then, bro. You're the one they chose." No reply. I went to bed feeling oddly at peace, like I'd finally broken free from years of manipulation. But things escalated the next day. I was at work when I got a call from my apartment's front desk. "Hey, Ralph, your parents are here." I nearly dropped my phone. "What?" The receptionist hesitated. "They're saying it's an emergency and you won't answer their calls." Unbelievable. They showed up at my apartment because I stopped paying their bills? I took a deep breath and pinched the bridge of my nose. "Don't let them up. I'm not expecting them." There was an awkward pause. They're being kind of insistent." I gritted my teeth. "I don't care. They can leave. I hung up and immediately got a text from Mom. We're downstairs. Open the door. No question, no explanation, just another demand. I didn't reply. Another text. Ralph, we're not leaving until you talk to us. I exhaled sharply and stood up from my desk. They weren't backing down. Fine. I was ready to give them a lesson they'd never forget. I grabbed my keys and stormed downstairs, my blood boiling. I wasn't scared. I was furious. The nerve of them, showing up uninvited at my home, demanding money like I was their personal bank. No call, no half-hearted apology, just a full-on ambush. They thought they could bully me into submission like I was some naive kid. I flung the door open and there they were, Mom, Dad, and of course Eric, standing together like they were staging an intervention. Mom had her arms crossed, her classic disappointed mother face on full display. Dad stood stiffly, hands in his pockets, looking annoyed and entitled, like he couldn't believe I was making him do this in person. And Eric, the little leech, looked bored, like this whole thing was just a minor inconvenience to him, like he wasn't the root of this mess. Mom saw me and launched into full dramatics. Ralph, finally! We need to talk! I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Number, you need to leave. She blinked, like she couldn't process what I'd said. Excuse me? You heard me, I said, my voice calm but firm. You don't get to show up at my apartment demanding money. That's insane. Dad scoffed. Are you really going to let us lose the house over some petty grudge? I let out a cold laugh. Petty grudge? You mean the one where you decided I was good enough to pay your bills but not good enough to be in your will? That grudge? Mom gasped, clutching her chest like I'd slapped her. Ralph, that's not fair. We only did what we thought was best for the family. I tilted my head. Best for the family? You mean best for Eric? Just admit it. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Eric, who'd been quiet until now, finally spoke. Look, man, I don't even want to be involved in this. I turned to him, letting loose. No, you just sit back and take everything that's handed to you. You're 28, Eric. Get a damn job. His face turned red. Dude, what the hell? I stepped closer. You heard me? You want to inherit the house? Start acting like a homeowner. You want to be the golden child? Start paying their damn bills. I'm done being your bank. Eric looked away, staring at the ground. Mom took a deep breath, doubling down on the guilt trip. Ralph, he's your brother. I nodded. Yeah, and I've supported him longer than you ever have. Dad's face darkened. You're being selfish. I laughed, a real, genuine laugh. That's rich, I said, gesturing between them. You two decided Eric deserved everything and I deserved nothing. And now that you're facing the consequences, you're trying to guilt me into fixing it? Not happening. Mom's voice sharpened. We thought you'd be mature about this. I raised an eyebrow. Mature? You mean quietly accept that you betrayed me and keep paying your bills? Because that's what you wanted. Dad stepped closer, trying to loom over me like when I was a kid. Ralph, we raised you, fed you, clothed you, gave you everything. The least you can do is help us now. I met his gaze. I already did, for years, and you repaid me by cutting me out. Mom's lips trembled. We thought you'd understand. I exhaled and shook my head. Oh, I understand perfectly. I understand I was never family to you, just a paycheck. Silence again. A heavy, undeniable silence. I turned to Eric, who was still trying to blend into the background. And you? What's your excuse? You've had years to get your life together, to contribute, but you didn't, because you knew they'd take care of you. And when they're gone, you expected me to step in, right? Eric snapped. What do you want me to say, man? I didn't ask for this. I nodded slowly. Right. You didn't ask. You just benefited. His mouth opened, then closed. Nothing. He had nothing. Mom tried one last guilt trip. Ralph, we're family. Family takes care of each other. I stared at her for a long moment before answering. Exactly. So why didn't you take care of me? She froze. No words, no comeback, nothing. I exhaled slowly, feeling lighter than I had in years. We're done here. I turned and walked back inside, closing the door behind me. My phone buzzed before I even reached my couch. Dad. Wow, after everything we've done for you, you're really going to abandon us? I smirked and replied, No, you abandoned me. I'm just finally accepting it. I sent the message and blocked their numbers, but I didn't realize blocking them would only make things worse. Things spiraled quickly. Less than a day later, I started seeing posts on Facebook. My parents weren't tech-savvy, but they knew how to air their grievances online, especially when they felt justified. At first, I thought it was just them being dramatic, their usual tactic of broadcasting family drama for sympathy. But as I scrolled through their pages, I realized it wasn't just about me refusing to pay their bills anymore. Their posts were disguised as heartfelt family messages, but they were thinly veiled attacks on me. Mom wrote about how she didn't raise her son to be so selfish, how real families support each other no matter what. A few of her friends commented, calling me ungrateful and out of touch with family values. Then Dad posted, "So-called family shouldn't turn their backs on you when you need them most. We gave everything to our kids and this is how we're repaid? My son, who should be supporting us in our later years, has chosen to abandon us." He tagged me, adding a passive-aggressive "hope you're happy at the end." The real blow came from Eric. I should have known he'd jump into the drama. His post was dripping with hypocrisy. "I wish some people understood what family really means. I love my parents and am so grateful for them. Some people think family is just about money. They don't get that it's about love and sacrifice. I'd do anything for my parents, but some people are too caught up in themselves to see that. True love means helping those who raised you." That was it. My breaking point. I sat there, staring at my screen, dumbfounded. How had it come to this? They'd twisted everything, painting me as the villain, the selfish son who refused to support his devoted parents, the son who didn't appreciate their love. How dare they? I'd been the one working hard, contributing, never complaining, and they'd convinced themselves they were right, dragging my name through the mud to prove it. I didn't want to react impulsively. I took a step back, gathered my thoughts, and waited a few hours. I needed to be sure I wasn't just lashing out in anger. But the more I thought about it, the more I knew I couldn't let them get away with it. If they were going to smear my name, I was going to set the record straight. So I pulled out my phone and started typing. I made a post on my own Facebook, one I kept for close friends and real family. I wasn't here to play their game or get dragged into petty arguments. I wanted to tell the truth. Here's what I wrote. "I've been silent for a few days, but I can't stay quiet anymore. My family has been posting a lot about me online, and it's not true. They've painted me as the bad guy, the selfish one who won't help my parents in their time of need. I'm here to tell the real story. I've always supported my family. Since I got my first job, I've been the one paying bills, buying groceries, and keeping things together. For years, I've watched my parents favor Eric, giving him everything, the house, the money, the attention, while expecting me to keep giving without ever being treated as equal. Some of you might read this and think, that's just how families work. But here's the truth. Family is a two-way street. When I found out my parents left everything to Eric in their will, I realized how one-sided this relationship has been. I've funded their lifestyle for years, bills, vacations, property taxes, and for what? To be treated like a backup plan? I'm done. I'm not just a wallet they can tap whenever they need cash. I'm a person, and I deserve respect. I've earned the right to be valued, not just used when it's convenient. It's time for Eric to step up. He's 28, has never worked, and has never taken responsibility for anything. It's no shock my parents favor him, but he's had plenty of time to get his life together. Now it's his turn to stand on his own. To everyone following this drama and supporting my parents, please know there are two sides to every story. Family matters, but so does mutual respect. I've given enough, and I'm not sorry for stepping back. This isn't me abandoning my family. It's me choosing myself. To my parents, I wish you well, but I'm done being your doormat, I hit post, and relief washed over me. For the first time, I was telling the world the truth about my family, how they'd used me for years, always expecting me to save them without caring about my needs. I was done letting their narrative control my life. The responses came quickly. People I hadn't spoken to in years reached out with support. Cousins, friends of my parents, even distant relatives liked the post and messaged me privately, apologizing for what I'd been through. It felt liberating to finally speak my truth and not be weighed down by guilt trips or manipulation. Then came the backlash. My parents and Eric lost it. Eric messaged me, "You're a traitor. You really had to air our family business like this? You have no respect for family," Dad called, shouting into the phone. "You've ruined everything, Ralph. You'll regret this. You'll regret turning your back on your family." But I didn't regret it. Not for a second. I blocked them all. I was done. And for the first time, I felt free. Free from the toxic hold they'd had on me for so long. As the days passed, the weight lifted from my shoulders. I was tired of being treated as less than, of always fixing everyone else's problems. Now I could live life on my terms. No, I don't feel bad about cutting them off. I deserved better. I still do. And from now on, I'm choosing to surround myself with people who value me for who I am, not what I can give them. It's time to move forward, for good.